I've been building my own kingdom for everyone to see. It exists to keep me safe from harm, and it's intact to glorify me. Nobody helped me build this up. It was me and me alone. I've appointed myself as the king, and I've given myself the throne. But it turns out I'm no ruler, and I have no control. So I have decided to destroy it all. I'm tearing down the walls, kicking down the doors. Everything inside this kingdom is yours. 'Cause what I've made is worthless, and it cannot stand. Come and breathe some life into my empty, cold, dead end. Down with the fickle king, away with this fantasy. You are the one I need. Death to the kingdom of me. Death to the kingdom of me. I should probably be frightened. This empire's all I know, but it always does more damage than good. I'm afraid it's gotta go. I know that I can't be trusted, 'cause I'm just a man. And if you hadn't given your life for me, a loser would be all that I am. You know they say just follow your heart. I'm afraid that's a load of trash. Your heart will take you down to deep, dark places where you feel like you'll never come back. So I'm coming out of the dark. This facade is going to end. And if I ever build this kingdom back up, I'll have no... Feel free to be whoever you want to be. Feel free to dance, feel free to sing, just feel free. Feels like the world is picking on you.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Two Tone Talk podcast. Talking Two Tone. We are barreling toward week 3 of NFL action. It actually started last night with the Giants and the 49ers. What a fun game that was. Week 3 is here, and that means Titans-Browns is here. And so we're going to be talking about Titans-Browns today, as well as all of the other week 3 action, as well as the second edition of the Two-Tone Talk 32-1 Power Rankings. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back, whether you're watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify and SoundCloud. Welcome to episode 38 of the Two-Tone Talk podcast. The Tennessee Titans are 1-1. They're traveling to Cleveland, and the injury report, to nobody's surprise, reads like a scroll with tons of important names on the injury report. Such as, of course, we already knew Amani Hooker, Christian Fulton, as Fulton tries to come back from that hamstring injury, as Hooker tries to clear concussion protocol, as Peter Skoronski had an appendectomy. We already know He's probably going to be out for a second straight week. And now we have new names added to the injury report. Names such as Derrick Henry. Names such as Harold Landry. Names such as Danico Autry. Names such as Teair Tart. Names such as everybody on the defense. Real quickly on the injury report, I mean, we're going to find out some designations a little later on today, of course, when the Friday injury report comes out. I would expect that Skoronski and all the people that haven't practiced this week will all be out. I think that Amani Hooker and Derrick Henry will be good to go, and I think everybody else will be labeled as questionable, in my opinion. But we'll see as the two-tone injuries begin to pile up. But if you look around the league, everybody's hurt. Everybody's hurt. Tons of injuries going on all over the league to key players. Here's a little iced coffee ASMR for you. Isn't that great? And as Will Dotson has already acknowledged in the chat on the YouTube channel, Titans are wearing white for the third week in a row. I understand wearing white on the road. I have no idea why they wore white at home this past week. I don't know. But either way, they can wear whatever they want to as long as they win. Titans-Browns. For those of you who watched the Browns on Monday night against the Steelers, I walked away from that game, because I watched most of it. I walked away from that Browns-Steelers game, and I posted it on the Two Tone Talk Twitter. Please go follow at Two Tone Talk on Twitter X. I walked away and I said, you know what? The Titans should beat the Browns. The Titans should beat the Browns. Deshaun Watson looks horrible. Obviously, the injury to Nick Chubb, which was just awful, brutal, devastating. I mean, his leg literally snapped, caved in on itself. As bad an injury as you'll ever see. So, and Nick Chubb, one of the best in the game. So, of course, we send all our love to him. But, you know, Nick Chubb out for the season, but in particular this game against the Titans. Browns' offensive line doesn't look great. Watson doesn't look great. Defense pretty good. I would anticipate a low-scoring game, but I do think the Titans on all fronts should be better than the Browns, and they should beat the Cleveland Browns. Now, I was on Twitter Monday night, and I agree the Browns did not look good, but I saw a bunch of Titans fans posting, acting like it was a given. Acting like it was a given that the Titans were going to go in there and beat the Browns. And I am never going to act like it's a given that the Titans are going to beat anybody. I'm never going to act like it's a given that anybody's going to beat anybody in the NFL. We see crazy stuff happen every week. We see teams that are on the surface horrible beat teams that are elite all the time. So, nothing's ever a given in the NFL. All I'll say is that, in my opinion, the Titans should beat the Browns. Deshaun Watson's no good. Demotivation on YouTube says that our offense still sucks. I disagree. I don't think the offense sucks. I think the offense looked much better against the Chargers. The Browns' defense is great. I don't know if I'd say great. They're really good. Their front four are great. So it's going to be tough. This will be a real test for the offense. But I actually like where our offense was trending in that Chargers game. I liked the use of Henry and Spears. I felt like that was much better than the Saints game. I thought Tannehill was obviously much better against the Chargers than the Saints. But I'm interested to see, because you know who else has a really good defense? The Saints. And the Titans offense struggled mightily against the Saints defense. So I am interested. The Chargers, God bless them, their defense is not the best. So I am interested to see how the Titans offense fares against, and Cleveland's injury report, it kind of long too. So we'll see today what kind of designations they give. But I think that the Titans on offense this past week against not San Diego, LA, I think they showed some signs of life and hope. And I think that, it's going to be interesting to see if we can run against these guys. No Skoronski. So it'll be interesting. This will be an interesting matchup for the Titans offense against Cleveland's defense. And I think it'll be, like I said, I think it'll be a low-scoring game either way it turns out. I think you're looking at a 17-14 kind of final. And we'll see. I'm worried about this offensive line going against Cleveland's front four. I'm not going to lie. I'm a little worried about Tannehill just because the last time he faced a good defense in New Orleans, he was horrible. So I hope that that history doesn't repeat itself. But I will say this. Some people are going to think I'm nuts. I don't think I am. I would take Ryan Tannehill over Deshaun Watson right now. I think Watson looks terrible. I think he looks horrible. Now I'll probably just jinxed us right there. Watson's probably going to throw for 500 on Sunday and 7 touchdowns and look like prime Houston Texans Watson or prime Clemson Tigers Watson. But I think Watson's been bad. Without Nick Chubb, we'll see. They're bringing in Kareem Hunt, which is pretty predictable when you saw the Nick Chubb injury. And, let's be honest. Cleveland, sorry, you guys probably don't want to hear me crunch ice. Let me swallow this real quick. I should have thought about the fact that on this podcast, nobody would want to hear me crunching on ice while I... But, Amari Cooper, Elijah Moore, those are not exactly weapons to scoff at. So I just don't understand the Titans fans that just watched Cleveland look bad the other night and assumed, I ain't even worried about it. I would worry if the Titans were playing a middle school football team from the middle of nowhere. I would still worry about if they would come out on top. Yeah, we'll see. Let's do a little... Oh, I appreciate that, Will. Will said he loves my t-shirt. If you're listening, you can't see it, but it's a little old school Raw as War. So, let's do this new segment. It is the Two-Tone Talk 32-1 Power Rankings. Briefly ranking every team in the NFL, how I see it, from 32-1. And this is going to get harder every single week. So just bear with me. Here we go. First off, we've got the bottom 3, and at number 32, I'm actually going to go with the same team that I had at 32 last week, which is the Houston Texans. I've said everything I could say. CJ Stroud, I'm worried about how good he's going to be in the future, but they have absolutely nobody around him right now. And so I've got Houston at number 32. At number 31, I'm going to put the Carolina Panthers. Kind of the same situation. You've got a young quarterback in Bryce Young. I really didn't realize how much of nothing they had on that team in Carolina until I watched some of their game the other night. They just have nobody. And Bryce Young, I like Bryce, and I hope he does well. He's really tiny, so much so that they can't even run a quarterback sneak with him because he's so small. Yikes. But either way, if they want to put him in a position to succeed, they got to get some other weapons up in there. And then at number 30, the Arizona Cardinals. The Cardinals put up a good fight, but they gave up a big lead against the Giants on Sunday. And as you'll see in a second, I don't think the Giants are very good. So I think Arizona, obviously they're going to get Kyler Murray back at some point. I don't think it's going to make that much of a difference. Once again, just not a lot of talent on that team. Now, that's the bottom 3. Now we go forward to the 20s here. At number 29, I've got the Giants. The Giants did come back to beat the Cardinals on Sunday, but they looked horrible last night. They got beat pretty soundly by the 49ers, and the 49ers are awesome, but the Giants are in a great division in the NFC East, or the NFC Beast, and I just fear it's going to be a long year for them. 28, Chicago Bears. It's a mess in Chicago. You've seen the reports coming out of Chicago and things that are going on there. A whole lot of stuff going on, okay, that we don't know all the details. But as far as on the field, their play calling looks horrible. Fields looks horrible. I mean, it's already a dumpster fire in Chicago. 27, New England Patriots. I will give the Patriots this. I mean, they're fighters. They're gritty. They're going to hang in there, and they're not. I don't think they're just going to go out and get clobbered by anybody. But in that division with the Bills and the Dolphins, I just think you're looking at a long year for the Patriots, and I think that especially with their lack of talent on the outside, for sure. Number 26, Minnesota Vikings. Vikings, they're in a bad way, and they're in desperate need of a win because their division is a little more open than these other teams that I've talked about so far. But man, outside of Justin Jefferson, their offensive line don't look good. Cousins is fine, but their defense doesn't look great. I said I thought the Vikings would take a step back, and so far they have. Number 25, the Browns, the Titans' opponent for this week. I said everything I can say about them a second ago. I think Watson looks bad. I think their offense as a whole looks bad. But they have a good defense that'll keep them in games. 24, the Pittsburgh Steelers, who beat the Cleveland Browns the other night, but didn't look exactly great doing it. I mean, you got fans in the stands chanting for the offensive coordinator to be fired rather loudly. I mean, honestly, they were chanting pretty loud for the OC to be fired. I think that that Mike Tomlin, you guys know, I think he's a great coach. So I think he's going to be able to coach them to some wins, but I don't see them making too much noise. 23, our friends in Indianapolis, the Colts. The Colts, Anthony Richardson, it's kind of the same situation as Stroud and Bryce. He doesn't have much help around him. He's already having trouble staying healthy. They've got one of the better backups in the league in Gardner Minshew, so we'll see how that works out. But, I think there's reason to be encouraged in Indianapolis based on what you've seen from him, but he's going to have to take better care of himself, and they don't have a lot of help around him, but they might be getting Jonathan Taylor back soon. Number 22, Denver Broncos. I mean, the Broncos, 2 tough losses to start the season. It's always close, and in the first game, they lost by a point. Second game, they tried the Hail Mary. They missed the 2-point play. So they've been on the doorstep, which is more than you could say about them last year. But I've said it before, I'll say it again. The whole Russell Wilson and Denver thing just feels wacky to me still. It doesn't feel like a good fit. Number 21, the Raiders. The Raiders take a good fall down the list this week. Last week, I think I had the Raiders up around 15, 16. Because I said Jimmy Garoppolo just finds ways to win. But let me clarify. I don't think Jimmy Garoppolo is going to be able to find ways to win against teams like the Buffalo Bills, who were out for blood on Sunday. The Raiders got whooped. They got humbled on Sunday. So that takes the Raiders down a peg. Let's go to the top 20. I'm sure some people will disagree with some of this. Number 20, Jets, Jets. I mean, it's tough for the Jets because they have a lot of talent on that team. They have a really good defense. They have talent on offense. But with Zach Wilson at quarterback, it doesn't matter. With Zach Wilson at quarterback, it does not matter. And I don't think there's any free agent that they could bring in that would fix it. Number 19, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Hey, the Bucs, 2-0 against all odds. I don't think it's going to last. I don't think that Tampa Bay is going to be able to continue doing what they're doing. And I don't think that Baker Mayfield's going to be able to continue doing what he's doing. But Mike Evans is obviously a stud. He deals with injuries a lot, so we will see if the Bucs can. I'm not buying in yet. 2-0, great. I'm not buying in, and they got a tough game. I believe they play the Bills this week. Number 18, the Rams. As I said, the Rams are a tough team. Probably better than people were going to give them credit for. Don't forget, they did win the Super Bowl a couple years ago, and they've got some of the pieces still there from that Super Bowl. So I don't think the Rams are going to just be an easy out this year. I think they're going to be competitive with a lot of teams, especially if they're able to get Cooper Kupp back at some point. But I don't think the Rams are a playoff team. I think they're just can beat the really bad teams and can hang in there with some good teams, and that's about it. Number 17, the Packers. The Packers take a fall down the list this week. Packers, Jordan Love still looked good, but they blew a fourth quarter lead to the Falcons. Imagine that. The Falcons make a fourth quarter comeback, and the other team blows the lead. I think where the Packers are going to have trouble, and it's a common theme, I keep saying this about teams, I just don't think the Packers have a lot of talent around Jordan Love. I don't think they have enough to really help him out a lot. And, they're Green Bay, and they always find their way. They always find their way in the middle of the mix, and I think they have a good coach. But I don't know. I don't think that the Packers are going to be able to contend with another team in their division that I'll talk about here in a little bit. Number 16, the L.A. Chargers, the team that our Titans beat on Sunday. It's a mystery, man. I mean, the Chargers, kind of their story is they lose the close ones. They always lose the close games. They lost a close one against Miami in week 1, and then they lost a close one against Tennessee in week 2. They just have trouble in these close games, and it's always the difference for them. I think their defense is not great. I think that Justin Herbert is doing all he can. He's got weapons all over the field. Obviously, he didn't have Austin Eckler this past Sunday, so that'll be a help for him. But I just don't know if their defense is good enough to get him over the hump, and they've got to find a way to win these close games because most of the games in the NFL are close. Number 15, I put the good guys, the Tennessee Titans. This is a substantial jump up the list for the Titans. I think I had them at 20 last week, and I upped them to 15. But, I mean, at the end of the day, I got to put them ahead of the Chargers because they beat the Chargers. I think they would beat the Packers head-to-head. I think they would beat the Rams head-to-head. I think they would beat all of these teams below them head-to-head right now. I mean, it comes down to Tannehill. If Tannehill can continue to play the way that he did on Sunday, they can beat some teams. They can really win a lot of games, I think. When I say a lot of games, I mean 10, 11. But if he reverts back to what he did against New Orleans, they're not beating anybody. But, of course, I like the Titans' defense. I think that Burks, Hopkins, Okonkwo, these are weapons that not a lot of people know outside of us on the Two Tone Talk podcast. But I think that they can surprise some people down the line if they can stay healthy. Number 14, the Seahawks. Seahawks jump up the list. Seahawks got a big win because in week 1 they were very disappointing. They come back. They beat the Lions, who had so much momentum coming in. And this was kind of a game that they needed, man. The Seahawks needed, because with their roster, you go 0-2, you really have people start writing them off. So Seahawks get a good win, and Pete Carroll's just a great coach, so I think that accounts for a lot of it. And Geno, he ain't right back. And Geno looked a lot better. Number 13, the ATL Falcons. I mean, I say the same thing about the Falcons every week. It's not entertaining. It's not fun to watch. And a lot of people would have rather seen the Packers beat them because it's the Packers. It's Jordan Love. It's the heir to Favre and Rodgers. But the Falcons, behind some nice stuff from Bijan Robinson, behind Algier and Desmond Ridder, didn't totally screw it up for them. They found a way to come back and win the game. So the Falcons are going to do that to some teams this year. I think the Falcons are going to go into some games and they're going to drag teams down into the mud with them and end up beating them by 2-3 points. I think the Falcons are more talented than people give them credit for. Number 12, the Washington Commanders. I like the Commanders. I have the Commanders as a playoff team. I don't think they're on the level of the Eagles or the Cowboys in that division, but I do think that the Commanders are gritty. They've got more talent than you think. And this Sam Howell, out of nowhere, he's making some nice throws, and I like Ron Rivera. Number 11, the Cincinnati Bengals. Yes, the 0-2 Bengals. Remember, this list is how I see it. This list is how I see it in my own eyes. I still think the Bengals are going to get it together. Again, we've seen the Bengals do this before. They go on a stretch where they lose some games. Everybody wonders what's wrong, and then they win 11 games in a row and look great doing it. So I think the Bengals are going to find their way. Obviously, Burrow's hurt. I'm not saying there's no reason for concern in Cincinnati. Burrow's hurt. You're 0-2. You've got tough games ahead. But the Bengals always figure it out and they get it going. So I'm still not too worried about the Bengals. But they do drop out of the top 10 this week. And now we move to the top 10. Some of these, you guys are going to be like, I don't think that team should be there. But, it's just tough. The Saints, I put them at 10. I'm not a big believer in Derek Carr. I don't think that Derek Carr has played particularly well for them. But their defense looks good. And the Saints' defense is always good. You got to think, Michael Thomas back, doing some good things for them. Chris Olave, they're going to get Kamara back at some point to kind of maybe help Derek Carr kind of do what we've seen Ryan Tannehill do for a few years, and that is don't lose your team the game. You ain't got to be Pat Mahomes or Jalen Hurts, but just don't do anything stupid. And if Derek Carr can do that, which surely he can after being in the league, the Saints, again, it's going to be having to rely on their weapons. Obviously Taysom Hill's another one. You're going to have to rely on your weapons that you have to help Derek Carr out, and then your defense going to have to, hold teams to a reasonable amount of points. You can't let anybody score 40 because I don't think the Saints are going to be able to keep up with them with that offense. But, the Saints are probably better than I thought they were going to be. Number 9, our old friends in Duval County, the Jacksonville Jaguars. I know you guys are saying, why is Jacksonville in the top 10? They haven't looked great yet, but I'm not going to fault a team too much for losing to Kansas City. Okay, I had them at, I think, 6 last week. They lost to Kansas City. A lot of people are going to lose to Kansas City. I hate the Jags just like you do. But, I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt. There's still a lot of potential that I hope they don't reach. With Lawrence and Ridley and all of the other people they have, there's a lot of potential for them to get hot. And I still think there's enough talent on that offense that you got to give them the benefit of the doubt. As bad as I hate to do it, I got the Jags at 9. Moving on to number 8. I know the Lions. I know they lost to Seattle in overtime. How do you still have them? Listen, the Lions, I think, still have momentum. They ended last year good. They beat Kansas City on the road in week 1, and then they lost a shootout in overtime against Seattle. Yes, they should have won. They should have beaten Seattle, but you got to look at their division. I think the Lions are inherently better than the Packers, inherently better than the Vikings, and a heck of a lot better than the Bears. I think the Lions have much more talent. I just think Seattle is a well-coached team. They came in there, they beat them in overtime. I'm not jumping ship on the Lions. I had the Lions at 4 last week. I dropped them to 8. So I'm not going to drop a team too much for losing a shootout in overtime against a team who always seems to find a way to win in Seattle. Number 7, the Chiefs. I had them at 7 last week. I'm going to keep them at 7. The Chiefs beat the Jags. They didn't look great. But again, it's Mahomes and Kelsey, and I'm going to pick the Chiefs most weeks to win their games. They're the Chiefs. They're the closest thing we have right now to a dynasty in this league, and they're always going to be the team to beat as long as number 15 is at quarterback. Number 6, the Bills. The Bills very much got a rebound win over the Raiders in week 2. Whooped them pretty bad, looked a lot better, looked like a team who was determined to right the wrong from week 1. And I think what's dangerous is the Bills had a rusher go for over 100 yards. If the Bills find their rushing attack, that could be the missing piece that they haven't had the last couple of years. Number 5, the Ravens. The Ravens cracked the top 5 this week. The Ravens, they're a stable thing right now. Lamar Jackson, they're a team that feels safe. It's like, these other teams, some of them haven't looked as good as you thought. Some of them have looked better. Some of them looked great week 1, bad week 2, vice versa. But the Ravens are pretty steady. They've looked good throughout the first 2 weeks. Got a quality win over the Bengals in week 2. Ravens probably a little better than people thought. So they cracked the top 5. How about number 4, the Eagles? Yes, the Eagles won. They dropped a couple spots. The Eagles have not looked as good as they did last year, but I still think the Eagles have one of the best rosters in football, if not the best roster in football. And I think they're going to figure it out. I don't know if they'll be as good as they were last year, but I still think the Eagles are going to be a force to be reckoned with. And they still are 2-0. I mean, number 3, the Dolphins, also 2-0. The Dolphins have looked good. It's going to come down to Tua and his health. If he can stay healthy, the Dolphins are going to be dangerous throughout. That's where the train came off the tracks for them last year, is when Tua got hurt. Number 2, the Dallas Cowboys. Now, the Cowboys have looked great. Obviously, terrible news for them yesterday with Trevon Diggs getting hurt. He's out for the remainder of the year with a torn ACL. Terrible news for Dallas, but I mean, let's not act like the Cowboys don't have talent on that defense and on that team elsewhere. So, I mean, the Cowboys, what they've done, they've put 2 whoopings on the Giants and the Jets. Not the most quality opponents, but anytime you can whoop 2 teams in a row in the NFL, you're probably pretty good. So the Cowboys are number 2. And then at number 1, the same team I had number 1 last week, especially after last night solidified it, the San Francisco 49ers. I'm going to put them at number 1. I think the 49ers, they just got weapons galore. They've got a great defense. Purdy looks like he may be even better than he was last year. Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Brandon Ayuk, who didn't even play last night. 49ers look great, and they're going to be tough to stop there in the NFC. That's the second edition ever of the Two-Tone Talk Power Rankings, 32-1. Appreciate Richard with some kind words in the chat. I haven't been able to read the chat as I look through this power rankings, but everybody's talking about the Titans-Browns game. Of course, B Ravens 1 says Brock Purdy, MVP contender so far. That would be interesting. Very interesting. Mr. Irrelevant becomes MVP. That would be something. All right, let's make some picks for week 3. We will, of course, save the Titans game for last. And I forgot to make a pick, I think, for last night's game, but I would have picked the 49ers. Just know that. Sip of coffee, and here we go. Colts, Ravens. Anthony Richardson's out, right? Anthony Richardson's not playing this game. Even if he does, I got the Ravens, man. I think the Ravens have looked better than people would give them credit for before the season started. I think the Ravens will beat the Colts. I think the Ravens will beat the Colts by a couple of scores. And, for the Titans' sake, anytime you can have an AFC South team lose, that would be great. So I'll be rooting for the Ravens. Broncos, Dolphins. Man, the Broncos really need a win, and I just don't think this is the team to play if you need to get a win. I got the Dolphins over the Broncos. Like I said, if Tua can stay healthy, I think the Dolphins are going to be dangerous from here till the end. So I got the Dolphins over the Broncos. Patriots, Jets. 2 teams, and you've got a few of these matchups this week where you have teams that are just desperate for a win. And this is one of those. Patriots 0-2. You kind of feel like the Dolphins and the Bills. It's a 2-team race in that AFC East. Jets are obviously disappointed in how things have gone with Aaron Rodgers, and now Zach Wilson's in. I'm going with the Patriots to win this game. I just think that Bill Belichick's defense against Zach Wilson, we know Belichick especially hates the Jets. I feel like the Patriots are going to pull one out here, and I think, I trust Mac Jones a heck of a lot more than I trust Zach Wilson in this game. Bills, Commanders. This should be a good one. This is an opportunity for the Commanders to really show how good they are. Because, if they can beat the Bills, then you're going to have people going, wow. I think this game will be closer than people think, but I am picking the Bills to win this game down to the wire. I think this will be a good one. I think it'll come down to the end. Maybe a game-winning field goal, game-winning touchdown drive, something like that. I got the Bills over the Commanders. Falcons, Lions. This is a good one. Lions trying to pick up some of that momentum that they had. Dropped the overtime game to Seattle. Now you're at home against the Falcons. Falcons, a gritty, tough team. I am going to pick the Lions to win this game, I think. Home field. Lions trying to rebound from that win last week. Lions have a lot of talent on the field, and I think the Lions get the win over the Falcons this week. Saints, Packers, in Green Bay at Lambeau, I don't know if I trust Derek Carr to win on this. He's the weak link, I think, on that team. I'm going to hesitantly go I'm going to hesitantly go Packers because there's always an upset, and a lot of people are going to pick the Saints to win. I'll go with the Packers to win a low-scoring, close game. Texans, Jags, man, I'd like to see the Texans win this game, but I don't think they are. They're not any good. They've got a lot of injuries. It's in Jacksonville, and the Jags are going to be looking to rebound from that loss to the Chiefs, and they should. So I'm going with the Jags over the Texans, as bad as I hate to do it. And I hate the Texans too, but I mean, I just think the Jags are obviously a bigger threat. Chargers, Vikings. You want to talk about the desperation game. The Chargers are desperate for a win. Vikings are desperate for a win. Nobody wants to fall to 0-3. I'm going to pick the Chargers to win this game, rebounding off of a loss to the Titans last week. I just think the Justin Herbert will eat their defense alive. And, like I said, the Vikings outside of Justin Jefferson, there's just not a whole lot they offer. So I'm going with the Chargers to win that one in Minnesota. Panthers, Seahawks. I got the Seahawks. Bryce Young. Not going to play, right? Bryce Young hurt, so he's not going to play. I think this should be, if I was going to make a lock of the week, the next game will probably be the lock of the week that I'm going to talk about. But Seahawks over Panthers, I feel good about that. Cowboys against the Cardinals, this would be my lock. No, this next game looks like a lock too. But the Cowboys over the Cardinals, feel good about that. I mean, even without Trevon Diggs, Josh Dobbs going against this Cowboys defense, give me a break. Don't want to spit in the face of any Vols fans out there, but I'm going with the Cowboys over the Dobbs-led Cardinals. And then this one feels like a lock. Chiefs against the Bears. Da Bears. I think it's going to be a long day for Chicago. I am picking Kansas City to win this game. I think obviously the Bears have not looked good anyway, and now they've had a week of a lot going on within the organization. I'm going to go Chiefs over Bears in Kansas City. Give me a break. The Sunday Nighter, dear Lord, how did this end up as the Sunday Nighter? Steelers, Raiders. Who decided that this needed to be a Sunday night game? I guess some money decided that this was going to be the Sunday Nighter. I mean, I'm going to go with the Raiders. It's in Vegas. And these are the kind of games that I think Garoppolo can help them win. I don't think Garoppolo can help the Raiders beat teams like the Bills or the Eagles or teams like that. But I think he can lift them above teams like the Steelers at home. So I'm going to go Raiders over Steelers. Then we got another doubleheader on Monday night. Eagles, Bucks, couple of 2-0s. Hey, this is an opportunity for the Bucks in their home stadium. This is an opportunity for the Bucks to show that they're the real deal. I don't think they're going to, though. I'm going with the Eagles. I think the Eagles are eventually going to start looking like the Eagles. I'm going to say the Eagles over the Bucks. And then the other Monday nighter is Rams, Bengals. Don't know if Joe Burrow's playing in this game or not. But, I mean, the Titans play the Bengals next week. So, once again, the Bengals are going to be on a short week coming in, so that's good. I'm going to say if Burrow plays, Bengals win. If he doesn't play, Rams win. With Burrow, Bengals win. Without Burrow, Bengals lose. And then we close it down talking about the game that matters the most. Titans-Browns in Cleveland. I would love to see the Titans do what they did to Cleveland years ago on opening day. Y'all want to crown them? Crown them, Delaney Walker said. Of course, I am picking the Titans to win, and it's not just because, last week I picked the Titans to win, and I was scared. I did it literally out of just bias. This week I'm picking the Titans to win because I think they should, and I think they will. I think it's going to be low scoring. I think the points are going to be tough to come by. I think they're probably going to need another big day from Nick Folk. But going against a good defense, yes, I am a little more worried about Tannehill because, like I said earlier, last time he played a good defense in New Orleans, he wet the bed. But I would be looking. I think that as much as I think the Titans O-line is going to have trouble with the Browns front, I think you could say the same the other way. I think the Browns offensive line is going to have trouble with the Titans front. So I think this game might come down to offensive line and who can protect their quarterback the best. I think that if the Titans can protect Tannehill, they should win. I think if the Browns can protect Watson better than the Titans can protect Tannehill, we're in trouble. But I would love to see Jeffrey Simmons in the backfield all day. I would love to see Autry and Landry and Key and Tart. I would love to see all those guys in the backfield all day. And would love to, Watson will give you an opportunity to get some turnovers we've seen. So I would love to see some turnovers. I heard Mike Vrabel say on the Mike Vrabel show, if anybody watches that it's hard to win games in this league if you don't get turnovers. And I think the Titans, I know Hooker got the fumble and he had an interception in week 1 against Saints, but the Titans did not, to my knowledge, get any turnovers on Sunday against Chargers. They need to get some turnovers against the Browns. They need to get some turnovers, preferably on the Browns side of the field, so that they can already be set up for their offense not to have to go very far. I think that we've got to build on what we did last week, and I think the Titans are going to have to throw the ball. They're going to have to throw the ball because, I'm not saying completely abandon the run game, but the Browns are good at stopping a run, so you're going to have to throw it at some point. Get Burks, get Okonkwo, get Hopkins, get Westbrook-Akine and Moore and all these guys who played a big part last week. You're going to have to get them involved again. And, we'll see. But I think this is a game that I think the Titans should win. And, if you're going to build on what you did against the Chargers last week, you need to beat the Browns. Can we just say that? If you're going to build on what you were able to do against a team that many people thought would beat you last week in the Chargers, you need to beat the Browns. You need to beat the Browns. If you were lining up to play the 49ers this week, that would be one thing. But against the Browns, if you're going to make any noise this year, this is one of those you for sure need to win. For sure need to win. And in fact, I said if the Titans, and I said this after the Saints game, I said if they could be 3-3 going into their bye, that I would be pleased. If they could be 4-2, I would be mega pleased. So if you're going to be 4-2 going into the bye, you've already got one loss. This is one of those you need. You need this one, man. You need this one. So let's hope that the Titans don't wet the bed on Sunday. Titans-Browns this Sunday in Cleveland. Hope everybody enjoys the game. I appreciate you guys listening to the Two Tone Talk podcast. I will be back on Monday when all the dust is settled, hopefully to talk about another dub. But either way, I'll be here to celebrate with you or to cry with you, whatever the case may be. This is the Two Tone Talk podcast, staying way too high on the wins, way too low on the losses. Everybody go follow Two Tone Talk on Twitter, X. Also, make sure to subscribe to the YouTube channel. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for listening and watching. Tighten up, everybody. Bye.
That ain't no way to be. So many people try to get you to fit their mold. I think it's time for a change. This is what I say.